Oops. All right, can you guys wave and hear us okay? Oops. All right, can everyone hear us okay? Yes, are we? Make sure our microphone's not. Oh, here we go. Okay. Okay, cool. All right. All right, welcome guys. Sorry about the technical difficulties we had, but I think we're live and ready to go. And thank you for joining us for another Google Hangout here at the Bimini Biological Field Station. My name is Jillian, and I'm the founder of Sharks4Kids. And we have a really, really special hangout for you today, where you're actually going to get to see shark science live in action. So I'm here with some of the team from the Sharklab, so they're going to introduce themselves, and then we're going to introduce you to our special guest, talk a little bit about some of these animals, some of the work that's done here, and get right into the science.
Hey guys, my name's Emily. I'm from Canada. I'm the assistant manager here at the Bimini Biological Field Station. I help with the day-to-day research as well as looking at applications and all that kind of fun stuff. And here's Marissa.
Oh, hey, I'm Marissa. I'm from New York. I'm just a volunteer here. I help do some of the field work, send long lines, and then stuff in the lab with data and other stuff that needs to be done.
Hey guys, I'm Anthony. I'm our outreach coordinator out here at the Sharklab, so I'm in charge of all of our public opportunities, speaking to you guys, giving tours, all those types of things. I'm originally from Texas. I went to school at Texas A&M. This is a great time for you guys to come hang out with us and learn a little bit about sharks.
All right, and I'm just going to take a minute to introduce our classes. So if I say your name, if you guys can unmute your microphone for just a second and say hi to everybody. Do we have Mrs. Sills, 3rd grade from Pinellas, Florida? All right, they might be the class that's missing. Do we have Mrs. Chadwick's kindergarten class from Stockbridge, Georgia? Great. And do we have Mrs. P's grade 1s in Wellington, Florida? All right. Welcome, guys. We're really glad to have you here. And at the end, we'll take a couple of your questions. So if you guys can go ahead, and mute your microphones again. Great. All right. So the lab was started in 1990, so it's been here for a while, and actually has done a lot of really amazing research about the different sharks found around the island of Bimini. We're actually only about 50 miles from the state of Florida, so we're pretty close. And we're really lucky because there's lots of incredibly diverse species of sharks around here, including the one you're actually going to meet today. So, I'm going to come say hi. Come on. There we go. All right, so this is going to be our special guest. All right, so if you guys can see that all right. So this is a nurse shark, and they're one of the most common species here in the Bahamas. We can find them from newborns all the way up to adults, which can be up to about 9 feet long, so they can be a really big animal. And today we're actually going to take you through a little bit of the anatomy of this shark, because if you might have noticed, they look a little bit different than some of the other shark species you might be familiar with. They don't have that great big pointed snout or that giant dorsal fin. So we're going to talk a little bit about the anatomy. We're also going to talk a little bit about some of the other science that's actually happening here at the lab with different species of sharks. And then we're going to do what's called a workup. This is the data collection, or collecting information about the specific shark. And it's done whether you catch a great white, or a tiger shark, or a hammerhead. It's really important information to find out about this animal so we can actually learn more. So we're going to take you through so you can actually see the workup for this specific shark, which will then go into the data for the lab as part of their various projects they have going on relating to their sharks. All right, so first up, we're going to look at the anatomy of this shark. Do we have the trough somewhere? Okay, perfect. It's easier if you, let's put the trough up. I'm going to move the computer out. Just right across. Yep.
You guys need some water?
Go.
It's actually good tour practice for if you want to do it. I would do it first.
Okay. It's actually kind of hard for them to see it in the trough. Is it? Okay, well you can hold it up then if you want. Yeah, so you can hold it out. Just go back and forth to the trough maybe. Yeah. All right. So maybe just face it towards them.
Okay, guys, so we're actually going to start. You guys can notice nurse sharks are a little different shaped body-wise than sharks that you typically think of when you think of like a great white shark or anything like that. So these guys actually have kind of a flattened body, which is what you can see here. And that has to do with the fact that they spend most of their lives underneath ledges, where they like to hide out and find things like lobsters and conchs to munch on. But so this flattened body lets them hide under these ledges and they don't get stuck. And you'll also notice that their dorsal fin is further back. So that allows, and it's a little more bendy than a normal dorsal fin in another shark, and that allows them to hide under these ledges a little more easily. So then let's start up at the front. So you'll see nurse sharks have these little things called barbels, and that lets them feel around. It's like an extra sensory to look for food and stuff like that. And do you want to point the mouse right at the screen? So you'll see, oops, sorry, this computer. Nurse sharks' teeth. That's okay.
He's camera shy.
Nurse sharks' mouths are a little different than most sharks when you think of sharks. What they actually use their mouths mainly for is for sucking in food and for crushing food. So they don't have big teeth, or like serrated teeth like most sharks that you'd think of. They actually have more of a crushing plate. However, they can still do quite a bit of damage. They eat things like lobsters and conchs, so they still need a lot of power in their mouth. Sharks also, you can see right here, they have eyes. So just like us, sharks can see. And they also have things called nares. So these are almost equal to what we think of as nostrils. So sharks actually are able to smell as well. Purely used for scent though, not for breathing like we do. But in order to breathe, you guys can see right on the side here, nurse sharks have gills. And they actually have 5 gills. And these are used to pump water through in order to get oxygen. And that allows the sharks to breathe. Also, if you want to point them around again, sharks have something called ampullae of Lorenzini. And these are little dots. If you want to point his nose upright, just towards, yeah. You can see little dots along the front of the nose, and that's another sensory organ to allow them to sense things like heartbreaks and such in their prey items in order to find species a little more easily when they're searching around. And where do we want to go from there? If you want to pull them up, in order to tell if a shark is a boy or a girl, you look underneath, and this little fella has what you can see are called claspers, and that tells you it's a male shark. If it was a female shark, the claspers would just be completely not there. He just wants to swim around for a second. And these are his pelvic fins. And nurse sharks, since they spend a lot of time on the bottom, they actually also use their pelvic fins to push them along the bottom, kind of like little arms. This is his anal fins, and then his caudal fin, which is quite different from other sharks. And that's just kind of another adaptation for them to be able to hide under ledges quite easily compared to other species that are more pelagic and like to swim around in the ocean. Anything else?
Yeah, we can jump into the tags and stuff.
All right, Anthony's going to talk to you guys about some of the tags we use here at the lab.
I'm just going to jump in real quick. Just so you guys know as well, the nurse shark here, the lab has semi-captive pens. So they have, if you imagine if you've seen cows or pigs or sheep in a field and there's a fence, the lab essentially has an in-water fence that they keep juvenile lemons and nurse sharks for brief amounts of time for educational purposes and also some of the research that's being done here. They're a great tool for being able to teach people, especially getting to see little sharks, which are actually kind of cute, to help people better understand. Nurse sharks are incredibly hardy, so in this tub of water, we actually have a pump that's keeping the water flowing, so he's getting plenty of oxygen. And it's also, you'll oftentimes see nurse sharks in aquariums because they are a very hardy species, so they're great for doing something like this. So we'll use the shark to teach you guys, and then he'll go back out in the pen and shortly be re-released into the wild with his new tag, which we're going to talk about now.
All right, hey guys, how's it going? I hope you guys are enjoying meeting our little nurse shark friend. And like Emily and Jillian just said, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the ways we identify our sharks, okay? Because we catch a lot of different sharks, some of the same species, others that aren't the same species, and we want to know who exactly we're working with. So one of the big ways we do it, and we do this with all of the sharks we work with, are we use these small little tags. You guys can see that small little like grain of rice sitting right in the middle of the piece of paper. That's called the pit tag. And all the pit tag does is give us a short little code that helps us identify that shark. Now, the way we identify them is using a scanner like this. So I'll push this button to make sure it's on. And then when I want to scan my shark, I'll just scan it right over where that pit tag would be. And then we'll get a code that looks just like that. If you guys can kind of see it, it might be a little bit hard. But once we'll write that code down and we'll figure out who exactly we're working with. Now, if the shark doesn't have one of those tags, we'll put one in, and it'll go just right under the skin, so almost like he's getting a shot. We'll give him the quick shot, pull out the needle we use, and he's perfectly fine. And then we can identify him like that. Now, when it comes to our bigger sharks, we do give them a pit tag, but we also use something we call a KC tag, which looks a lot like this. You guys might be able to see there's a little number there in the vial that helps us, of course, identify our shark. And the way we insert this one is we'll actually take just this little dart right here on the end, and we'll actually just slip it right up under the skin, and the rest of this vial and the monofilament it's attached to will actually just hang outside the shark, so that when if we're not able to catch a shark, or maybe we're snorkeling around on one of our fun off days, we'll try to see if we can identify that shark just by looking at this little vial right here on the end. Okay? So those are some of our basic tags that we'll give some of our sharks. Now, for some of the research we're doing right now, like we're tracking shark movements, so we have a bunch of receivers all around the island that'll pick up tags like this one. Okay? So this tag will send out an acoustic signal or a ping, and it'll be picked up by these other really big receivers, and it'll help us identify the shark. Of course, we know where those receivers are, so we can find out where the shark's moving to, if he's moving to different areas where those receivers are located. We also have them in different, we call ecosystems, which are just if different areas of the ocean that these sharks will use. So we put them in reef systems, or near seagrass, or on sand flats. And we can watch where these guys are, what habitat they're using the most and which one they like the most. They might have their favorite food there. Maybe there's just a lot of protection there for them just to hang out and not get eaten by other sharks. Okay? And with these, what we'll do is we'll actually surgically implant them inside the shark. So we'll just make a small little cut, slip it right in there, and then sew them right back up, and the shark's perfectly fine. Now, one of the other tags we'll use, it's a little different than that one, is what we call our live tracking tags. Okay, so what this tag allows us to do is it actually allows us to follow a shark and listen for the ping from this tag. We'll have a special receiver, and we call it a hydrophone. Unfortunately, I don't have one to show you guys right now because they're actually tracking today. And so what they're doing is they're sticking this hydrophone, this big little black box, down in the water and listening for the shark's tag to try and figure out where he is. Okay? So doing that, we can see kind of where the shark is spending a lot of its time on a much smaller scale. And we can kind of follow them as they're swimming around. So we use all these different types of tags to help identify our sharks and kind of figure out what they're doing. So some of the other ways we try to identify our sharks, we don't necessarily need a tag. So things like our great hammerhead sharks, which we work with during the wintertime, we'll actually just take lots and 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 lots of pictures. And then we'll go look at the pictures afterwards, and we'll look at the physical and the marks on these sharks to figure out who it is and who's spending time with us. So we have our many different ways of figuring out what sharks we're working with.
Cool. All right, if you want to go the other way. All right, so now if we've gone out, we go out in the boat, say the lab's going to go out today and they're going to catch some sharks. All right, so once you've actually caught the shark using a couple different methods, either net, drum lines, long lines, the shark is brought either next to the boat or in the boat. Now, a shark this size would probably be brought into the boat in a holding tub to actually collect the data and do the workup if we were out on the water and we were going to just release the shark right there. But even all the sharks that are caught and brought to the pens, the same exact workup is done because they're an important part of understanding all of the sharks that are using the ecosystem around Bimini. All right, so we're going to bring the shark up into the tub and we're going to start the workup. So, can you tilt the camera more so we can see? All right. Oh, we have the wrong way.
Yeah, I was going to say we're at the wrong end.
The wrong end.
That's
All
fine.
right, that's fine. Just, yeah.
All right, so what we're doing right now is we have a measuring tape glued to the bottom of this trough that we're working with right now. So I can see the different lengths that we measure. So one of the lengths we measure is called pre-caudal length, and that's just right here in the shark. It's right before their caudal fin. So this shark is about 49 centimeters pre-caudal length. And at the same time, someone is usually writing down the data to make sure that we're collecting everything properly. And total length for this guy is about 70 centimeters total length. So it's a pretty tiny shark. And everything measured scientifically is done in centimeters. I'm not sure if you guys are used to centimeters. You guys are probably used to inches. But everything in the scientific field is done in centimeters. And we also do another measurement. It's called girth. So this is where we take the measuring tape and we actually put it right into the shark's armpits, is what we like to say. So right up into its pec fins and around its body to kind of measure its like waistline is what we like to think. Okay, there we go. So this little fella is about 21.5 centimeters in girth. We also take DNA and isotope samples. So what we do for that is we take a little triangle from the dorsal fin.
this is really like clipping your fingernails. The shark doesn't actually feel this. It's going to feel pressure. So it's going to fidget around a little bit, but it really is just like clipping your fingernails. This tiny little bit of skin that's probably about the size of maybe your pinky fingernail.
You can see it. It's just on my finger here.
All right.
And then, so we keep that, and that helps us to make almost a library of the sharks that we catch here and see who's related to who for DNA as well. Well, that was isotope, actually.
So we can get, from that little tiny clip that comes from the shark's dorsal fin, we're actually getting the DNA, the genetic makeup of the shark. It allows us to do a shark family tree. So around this island, the lab has looked at and identified a lot of the lemon shark family trees. So brothers, sisters, moms, dads. It's a really great way to understand if the sharks are staying around in this area or how long they're staying or who's actually here. It also gives you the stable isotope, which means we can essentially tell the shark's favorite restaurant. Where has this little shark been eating, right? Seagrass beds, hanging out in the coral reefs, or is the shark living in the mangroves for most of the time and munching on snacks there? So all from that little tiny pieces, we can actually learn a lot about this particular shark.
This shark, as well, as Anthony mentioned, we use pic tags. And this shark we've already caught before, so we can actually tell that just by scanning the side of the shark. There we go. So you can see that this shark already has a pic tag in it, and it's just a little microchip, just kind of the same thing that would be in like a cat or a dog, like your pet will get at the vet.
I think that's weigh it. Yeah, we can weigh it. And because the shark is small enough, we're actually going to be able to weigh it. And by taking weight and length measurement, it's really important because it actually helps determine growth rates for these animals. And we can compare them to the nurse sharks and lemon sharks here in Bimini grow at different rates than maybe the same species in other locations. All right. There you go. And
It was 2.
it was 2. All right. Is it 2 kilograms?
Yeah.
All right, so it's a pretty little shark. All this data is recorded, and then if the lab catches the shark again, they can look at growth rates or locations. Maybe this nurse shark was caught, Em said it was caught before, so when was it caught before? Has it grown since the last time it was caught? Or there's been some exciting findings of like lemon sharks here in Bimini traveling to Florida and back, bull sharks from other parts of the Bahamas showing up here. So these species do migrate. So all of this data is really, really important. And this data that we just did here is going to go in the book, and it's going to be part of a better understanding of these animals. So you guys actually got to see that and be a part of it, right? And then this nurse shark will actually go back out and be released and maybe caught again so we can learn even more about him. Cool. Do you have anything else you want to do? Okay. Cool. Well, we're going to go ahead and do some questions with you guys. If you want to go ahead and let's see, do we have the list? Let's see. All right. Does Mrs. Chadwick's class have their 2 questions? If you want to go ahead and unmute your microphone and go ahead and ask your questions.
All right. Yeah, ask them. Kind of know where she can see. Say hi.
Hi. How do you
Bigger
become
boy.
How do you become a marine biologist?
Oh, that's a great question. Anthony, you want to take that one?
Yeah. So, one of the ways to become a marine biologist, or at least the way I did it, was I actually went to college and studied an animal science. So my degree was something called wildlife and fisheries science. From that point on, I grew up absolutely loving the ocean. I went to swim in the Gulf of Mexico almost every weekend where I grew up. So I already knew I loved it, and I just wanted to continue working with it. So I got a few things called internships that let me just go experience what it's like to work with things like sea turtles and sharks and other fish. So I studied it in college. Now some colleges actually have a degree where you can focus on just marine biology. So you can study coral reefs, you can study fish, you can study sharks specifically, you can study whales and dolphins, sea turtles, all those types of things. It just depends on the college you go to.
You guys can also do stuff starting right now and be kind of great junior marine biologists, reading books about the ocean and animals, doing things to help them, not throwing your trash on the ground. And if you do go to the beach, maybe picking up the trash you see or observing any animals. What do you see when you go to the beach? Right? These are all really great things that you can do to start being a marine biologist. Great question.
Very good question.
We do that.
Louder.
We do that.
Can you say it again?
Okay.
We do that.
Oh, good.
Good job.
Awesome.
Tell them thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Big boy, say hi.
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 How many can
Oh, start over and do it really loud.
How many fish can sharks eat per day?
Ooh, good question. It depends on the type of shark, and believe it or not, sharks don't actually eat every single day. So, like these little sharks here that are in the pens, they get fed every 3 days, little bits of fish. So, it really depends on the size of the shark and the type of the shark. But imagine if you were a great white and you ate a big meal with like a seal or a sea lion, so it's a lot of food, you might not eat again for a month. So not every shark eats every single day. You also have to be able to find all your food because there isn't a McDonald's for sharks, so they have to be able to find their own food. So maybe some days you don't actually find anything. Good question.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and if Mrs. P's grade 1s in Wellington, if you have some questions for us.
Well, we're trying to figure out. Are we here? Yep. Okay, Catalina, just ask you a question. Go ahead.
How many bones do sharks have?
How many bones do sharks have? Bones.
Bones.
Yeah.
Sharks don't actually have any bones. They're all full of cartilage, so they're an invertebrate. So when they're swimming through the water, they actually just put their head around, and able to concentrate on that.
Yeah, if you guys all touch the end of your nose or the top of your ear, we all have cartilage. And a shark's entire skeleton is made of that, so not a single bone.
Pretty cool.
Great question. Do you have another question? Maybe. No. Does Mrs. P's class have another question? Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry, the sound kind of went off for us.
Did you guys actually hear the answer to our question?
Yes, we touched our noses and the tops of our ears. Thank you.
Great. And if you have another question, that would be great.
Yes, Michaela's here.
How long can a shark grow?
Can you say it a little louder?
How long can a shark grow?
How long can a shark grow?
Most of the species that we have here, like the lens in the nursery, 25 to about 40 years that we know of. Right? It's actually been proven. They might live longer, but we know they live at least that long. Something like a great white, anywhere from 50 to 70 years. And the Greenland shark can actually live over 100 years. So there's quite a range of how long sharks live. Good question.
Thank you.
Right. If Mrs. P's class wants to, we can go back to Mrs. Chadwick's. If you guys have a couple of more questions, we have a little bit more time. So if you want to ask us a couple more questions, that would be great. Does Mrs. Chadwick's class? Yeah, there we go.
Okay, say hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Use a big voice. Sharks get
How cool.
old.
How old can sharks get?
Well, I don't know if you just heard that, but we just talked about some species anywhere from 25 to 40 years. Great whites, for example, 50 to 70 years. And the Greenland shark, which lives in deep water, very cold water up in the Arctic, they can live over 100 years. They can live a really long time. So it's quite a range in the age, depending on the type of shark. Great question.
Say thank you.
Thank you. How many sharks are there?
For times. Okay, say hi.
Hi. How
Hi.
many different sharks are there?
That's a very good question. Yeah. So throughout the whole world, we seem to think there are about 500 different types of sharks. Now, that's a lot of sharks, right? And of course, the ones we think of the most are things like tiger sharks and bull sharks and great white sharks. But some of the ones we might not think of are some of the ones that live in very, 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 very deep water, up to thousands upon thousands of feet deep. So we don't necessarily know about those sharks that much, and even some of those sharks have just been discovered within the past year. So there was one shark this past year that they called the pocket shark that was just discovered. It was the first time they'd ever seen a shark like this. So even nowadays, that 500 that we know of is still growing.
Which is another reason that we all really need to do stuff to protect the oceans, because there is so much that we don't know. There's still species of not even just sharks, but other animals we haven't discovered. So making sure we're taking care of that and being active and being involved, and even just joining a Google Hangout like this to learn more about sharks, you're doing your part to help protect these animals and some of the species we don't even know about yet, which is why marine science, this kind of work is so exciting, because there's something new we learn every single day. Great question. All right, do we want to go back to Mrs. P's class? Do you have 2 more questions?
Sorry, we're coming.
Okay.
How many teeth do sharks have? How many teeth do sharks have?
Good question.
It depends on the type of shark again, but their teeth are not like our teeth, so you're always using them, and that's kind of every day at lunch. Whoop, if you guys can mute your microphone just a second. Great, thank you. All right, so every shark has a different amount. Most have between 5 and 15 rows, and over the course of their lifetime, say like an adult lemon shark, they might have 30,000 teeth in their lifetime. Right? That is a lot of teeth. But all sharks, they're not attached the same way ours are. So they fall out very easily and they lose them quite often. And within 4 or 5 days or several weeks, they're going to get a new one. It's kind of like a conveyor belt. A new one comes in, another one comes in. So they never have to worry about getting a cavity or going to the dentist because they've always got plenty of teeth. Great question. Do you guys have one more?
No, thank you very much. We're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. All right. We'll go back to Mrs. Chadwick's one more time. If you guys have any 1 or 2 more questions, we can wrap up with those if you do have a couple more.
Can you ask them? Hi.
Hi. Why are hammerhead sharks that way?
Ask them one more
Say that
time.
again?
Yeah.
Why are hammerhead sharks that way?
Why are hammerhead sharks that way?
Why are their heads like that?
Okay, that's a good question. Hammerhead sharks are actually my favorite shark in the whole world. The hammerhead shark, it's believed, it's really long, and along that hammer-like, it's actually called cephalopod, and there's sensory organs all along the bottom of it, and it helps the hammerhead find food in the water. So hammerhead's favorite meal is what we think is actually a stingray. So the hammer part of it actually helps them to find the stingray in the water because the stingray is usually buried, and it also helps them to pin down the stingray. They can use the corner of it, and then in order to eat the stingray, hold it down, and then kind of bite it, I guess. But yeah, that's what it's believed to be used for. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Anybody else? Jalissa, one more. What's your question? Okay. Tell them hi.
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 How do you sleep? Ask them how do sharks sleep. You gotta do it loud.
How do sharks sleep while they're swimming?
So sharks, we don't know whether sharks actually sleep. Okay. Yeah. So sorry, we do know that sharks sometimes rest depending on the type of species. Okay. So like our nurse shark friend. Actually, I'm gonna pick up the camera so you guys can see him really quick. If you guys will notice, he's just kind of hanging out, sitting there. Okay. Now, different species of sharks are able to just sit still. Okay. They have something called buccal pumping, which just means they're able to suck in a bunch of water in their mouth, and then using special muscles in their throat, they'll actually just push it right over their gills, so they can still breathe. Okay. Now, with sharks like that, what we seem to think is that when they rest, they can actually maybe shut off half of their brain, so half of their brain and half of their body kind of gets a rest, and then they'll switch it and shut off the other half of their brain. So they'll get a little bit of rest for half of their body sometimes, and then a little rest for the other half. And then other times their brain will just be on completely, and they'll just be looking for food or trying to find a better place to rest. Now, other species of sharks that have to actually continuously swim to breathe, or what we call ram ventilation, we seem to think that they still do the same thing. They'll shut off half of their brain so they're able to continue to swim. They might swim a little slower and then have half of their brain rest. and then they'll switch it. And so we seem to think that's probably the best way that sharks kind of get a little bit of rest and maybe some sort of sleep.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for all those really awesome questions. Thank you. And thank you for everyone for joining us on this Google Hangout. Please make sure to check out the website, www.biminisharklab.com, to learn more about the research, how you can actually help or get involved with the research right here in Bimini. And also check out www.sharks4kids.com for more activities and things that you can do to dive deeper into the world of sharks. So thank you guys so much. And if you have any additional questions, please just check out the website. You can send us a note. And thanks for joining us. See you later.
Bye, guys.
And